a piece of content months ago, Tamika, where I talked about the creative community, which to me is ad agencies, marketing firms, production companies, deciding years ago that they wanted to be B Corps when people didn't know what it was. I remember 10 years ago, one of my agencies came to me and said, I want to be this. And I looked up Ben and Jerry's and I said, well, this is just marketing. This is silly. It's not real. But what was interesting was that community always sees what's coming because they hear what the social fabric needs in our culture. So in the last couple years, the creative community has gone full force into working for good. I mean, several years ago, there was an agency that was called, I think it was called The Good Agency. And it was a couple guys that I worked with were part of it. And they specifically wanted to do advertising for companies that was good for the world, good for people. And everybody thought it was a little bit Pollyanna. I don't know if you looked, there's a client we have called Macro, and they only work on films and productions and products that are from an underrepresented community. And their blog talks about, this mission that they're on, but they're not pretending to be not for profit. They are for profit, but they're showing the world we can make a profit in this community.
So as part of our ESG practice, we started offering this as a service, DEI as a service to some of our clients. And in doing that, depending on what their needs are, we're really helping them to do what you just said, Jen, like hone in on the opportunities that they have to A, diversify teams, but B, in conjunction with diversifying, also find a benefit, right? So we have one client that actually created a new product offering based on the minority population, and then we have a nonprofit that we're helping here in St. Louis, who, because a lot of it's a mental health provider, and we're providing DEI strategy support to them because a lot of the children that need the mental health services in the community are minority children. And so we're helping them to diversify in order to make more impactful change and make their services more effective, even because it's difficult. It's difficult for a child who's going through something sometimes to get help from providers who really can't understand everything that they're going through because of these differences in demographics or upbringings and different racial makeups or even social economic makeup. So just we're seeing grant agencies come up with new grant offerings to be more robust and to be specific to what the community needs. So I think you're spot on in finding that you can actually, we're finding the benefit of diversifying and increasing our bottom line or increasing the effectiveness of our offerings.
Right. Well, if you loop that back to the creative community again, I love working with creative companies because it's fun, because they're doing amazing work. But what they're doing is they're elevating our social consciousness of these underrepresented communities, these children who people before would not have understood why they needed extra help. The way that you do that in the social world is you make a movie about them, or you put them in an advertisement, and all of a sudden eyeballs are on it in an entertaining way. And it's not shoved down your throat like it is in a political sphere. And also in an entertainment concept, and I include advertising and entertainment, I am a person who watches ads and cries. So, and I would never miss an ad on the Super Bowl, if it's only second down, I'll run out of the room and get some chips. But if it's an ad, I'm in front of the TV. So during those ads, it tugs on your heartstrings, and it shows millions of people who are not on the defensive, who are not sitting there going, I don't know about this. They're just sitting there eating chips, and they're watching, and all of a sudden they see someone who's blind. They see a little child. They see couples that are not the same color, and it becomes normal. All of a sudden, we're normalizing social issues through our advertising. You see it all the time. I mean, advertising is always so out in front. Like during the pandemic, I remember in March, I was sitting in my living room and I turned to my husband and said, I cannot wait to see what the ads do with this pandemic. Remember in the beginning, they hadn't changed yet. And I was like, oh, I cannot wait. What are they going to do with people wearing masks? We're arguing about whether people wear masks. Well, advertisers started just putting them on TV, and they normalized the conversation. And people in nonprofit communities had a much easier time raising money during the pandemic than anybody ever thought. And part of it was because advertising and entertainment can now elevate. Look at that movie. Just Mercy is a great example of a movie that showed us all what a politician could talk your ear off about, and you'd get sick of it in a debate, But instead, it was just entertainment, and entertainment that made you cry, that made you all of a sudden put something else on. There have been movies made about homeless people, and it's humanizing an unbelievable thing that other people who don't see it. I mean, I live in Venice Beach, but whatever, it's in my driveway. But people who don't live in neighborhoods where there are homeless people outside their front door don't understand what it is. And they think that they're criminals and junkies. And we need a movie. We need an advertisement. Now, I would argue that advertising should happen even more than movies in terms of moving the needle, because you see it over and over and over. You see a movie once. You see an ad over and over. And you can't, we try to zoom through them and get over it, but only after you watch it the first time if it's entertaining and beautiful. So I loved seeing our clients doing that. The other thing, Tamika, I want to ask you about this. You're not in the biz, so you might not have heard this, but there's this thing called the upfront season. And the upfront season is when all the networks, people who have content, new TV shows and stuff, they go out and they show all the media buyers their content. And they're like, oh, look at this great new show. Don't you want to place your ads on it? Because everyone's going to love it. Well, the Allen Media Group, which is famously owned by Byron Allen, is actually making a major push for all the upfront people to understand 8% of their buy should be Black-owned media. So they think that that is the minimum proper representation. And if they do that, and they're basically convincing, it's a futures market, it's a gamble, right?
That's
They're
right.
selling it. It's becoming very commercially important. So
Jenn, I love that. And to your point, advertisement and media actually, it has one of the strongest voices in changing culture. Just like you said, when you see an ad and it allows you to put yourself in someone else's shoes, similar to what you mentioned in the movie, the homeless movie, or or couples or anybody, when you're disabled and you see that person in a particular instance that could be you, right? It's like, oh, that could, like, I could have lost my job and I could have ended up in that very situation, and it makes us start thinking differently and thinking about what could we do to what support could we lend to the next person versus They need, just work harder, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So that the advertisers have a major voice and impact on really the social movements. And so I love that idea. And in regards to the percentage of upfront advertising, that very much parallels what we're seeing on the corporate side. So we're seeing boards now say, yeah, we've not done a great job with diversity, but let's look at the types of diversity that we ought to have. So if you have a board, that is all the same types of demographics, let's see who we should replace those expiring seats with. And let's really dedicate those seats, right? We need at least 2 women to be added to this board. We need at least 2 people of color. It's a very similar parallel. And in doing that, like I said before, it's not just for the sake of diversity, but it's actually helping them meet their underlying purpose. These boards as a result of becoming more diversified, they're able to achieve more outcomes, better results, better financials even. So I see it in media and in business. So it's amazing just to see that. But drawing a hard line is really forward thinking. But I also, like you said, I think they're just on the forefront of change.
Mm-hmm. They're always out in front. I mean,
That's right.
creative people, if you think about it, a lot of them are artists at heart. They're hippies. Think about artists and hippies. They go hand in hand. I was raised by one. I think that they're willing to think scary new thoughts. Whereas people in finance, for example, like me, we're a little less likely to embrace change, right? A little, but if you are a creative person, you are always looking for the new. You're always looking for something that stands out. It's okay to be strange and different. It's okay to take risks in a creative community. And for ESG, for diversity, anymore to change the planet, we are going to need advertisers and we're going to need movies. I think about Michael Moore, his movies changed us big time. How are we going to stop using plastic? How are we going to stop using oil? You know, we need to use our creative community in ways that get the rest of us inspired, that make the rest of us cry. And I know for me personally, being in this company, it's a little scary for me being a woman leader in this company. I mean, Armanino is big, and there are a lot of smart people around the table when I'm in a room. But believe it or not, it helps me to have seen pictures other women in some sort of entertainment or on an ad even. I mean, thinking about what they're wearing, oh, I could pull that off, I could do that. This is why, I mean, all these very serious issues to me need to be elevated.
And so, Jen, that brings up another point. So, in the creative space, as you get more minorities out in front and in the ads and seen in a different light, that also is allowing us to get more creative activity, right? Because now we got new creators popping out of nowhere, because now they can see things, they can see themselves on TV in places that they've not seen before. So maybe we can now get some newer storylines, right? Because now we have a diverse set of thoughts, and we're not swimming in that sea of sameness when it comes to entertainment. So that's also exciting, because again, you just mentioned the power of seeing, right? When you see someone else, you can then see yourself. You can believe that, oh, that could be me as well. So that representation is so important. And then one other point, based on something you said, we are seeing when it comes to ESG and the environment, as we start these discussions, it's amazing how getting with our clients and having these whiteboarding sessions how they come up with other uses. So where they used to have waste in product manufacturing, coming up with ideas on how to use that waste to do something different, or to create another product out of it. It's really amazing once you start embarking on the
Yep.
journey.
Yeah, that's something. I don't know if we have a committee that is trying to make our own company better all the time. And to me, that also means choosing to work with clients who are on the same journey. That's a big thing for me. And it may not always be PC, but one of the things that it's easy for me with creative clients, I send out our deck and it says, here's what the B certification means for Armanino, and here's what we value. And I have sent it to some people who have responded with, yeah, I don't need any of that. Yeah, that's all sweet and everything, but move on. And I have been less eager to pursue them. And I have spent less time pursuing those leads as a result. It's kind of, it is going to shape the culture of our work community too. Thank goodness the people I like working with are all into it, otherwise I might have trouble.
Jen, so that's very spot on. I'm noticing that a lot in our work as well, and it really does come down to like the client profile that we really see as the best mix for us, because these types of things were not a part of our evaluations, in the past, but now it's really like, just like everything else, when we decide if we have the skill set and the right resources in place to help this client. It really does matter if we're on the same page. And really, the clients who are not, Jen, I really think that they're going to regret it, because as more regulation comes, as this becomes more normalized, they're going to be left behind, and it'll be difficult for them to then try to catch up when you mention, like you mentioned, some of our clients who are already on the forefront and leading the pack in this area. So
yeah, it's not inwardly motivated. They have to wait till it's outwardly motivated and wait for someone to tell them how to do it. And then they're less powerful in the change that they're going to go through. In our client base that is creative, anybody entertainment creative, they're teaching us, they're helping us see what we can do. And so it's easy. That part of it is easy. And that's the wonderful part about working with the creative community. They're hip to it. I think that other industries are going to have to follow suit. And like you said, they're going to see on the screen ways that their populations, these people who work in other kinds of businesses, whether it's manufacturing or banking, they're going to see it in entertainment form, and it's going to help them change. I really do believe in the creative world, and that it has the power to change industry. It can privatize this movement. I'm a huge believer. I if I could work only with creative clients all the time, I would.